Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this regular bi-monthly town board meeting to order at 7:06. Hearing an echo from somewhere. Oh, okay. 7:06 p.m. Please rise and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's meeting will start with the continuation of the public hearing on the short-term rental local law. After we finish the public hearing, we do have 6 agenda items that I'll just briefly mention. A resolution to approve a bid for a proposal for a Ford F-250 for the Highway Department. A resolution settling a tax certiorari action. A resolution to authorize our attorneys for 2023 to handle tax certiorari proceedings. Another resolution to authorize our attorneys to draft a request for proposals for companies to provide fuel to the town of Tuxedo. A resolution to introduce a local law and schedule a public hearing to increase the tax cap, and a resolution to approve the town investment policy. But we will begin with the public hearing, and let me call that to order. So the continuation of the public hearing on short-term rental local law. I'll call this meeting, the hearing to order at 7:07 p.m. Before we begin with public comment, I'd like to present some background information about the process that we've been engaged in. This is actually a process that's going on for over a year. The Tuxedo Town Board began discussing short-term regulations on July 11th, 2022, when the building department raised the question as to whether such uses were allowed. A chronology of the discussions earnestly began on June 12, 2023, when the town board members agreed to review a rough draft of the short-term rental law, and both the board members and members of the public were invited to submit comments and suggested edits. On June 26, Deputy Supervisor Reichgott stated that he was compiling comments received from board members and town residents, and he'd work to have the draft short-term law ready in July. On July 10th, the town board members continued to discuss potential additions and edits to the draft short-term rental law. On July 24th, Deputy Supervisor Reichgott provided an overview of the draft, and council discussed a number of legal issues and constitutional restrictions on the town's regulation of the short-term rentals. Deputy Supervisor Reichgott stated that he would put together a final draft to present at the meeting on August 14th. On August 14th, the draft law was tabled. On August 28th, the town board approved the resolution introducing the then current draft short-term rental law and setting a public hearing. On September 11th, we had our first public hearing, and here we are today on September 25th, continuing the hearing. I bring this to your attention to, first of all, show the process. We've had many discussions with the town board, and people have come out and expressed their opinions about this throughout the process. Most in-depth was at the public hearing, which is what you would expect, and which is what we expected. That's how the process actually unfolds. We have our attorney, Amy Levine, here today, and she's here to also try to help point out legally what these processes are about. But basically, the issuing of a draft law is an opportunity for the town board to hear from the public, and we did. And I think you'll see in our responses tonight that we heard you loud and clear. And So really, a public hearing is a formal way to get on the record your opinions about a draft law. And I would just reiterate that the legislative intent of this board was truly to try to protect our balance between commercial and residential properties and the sanctity of why we all live in Tuxedo, especially in these residential neighborhoods, to protect and find that balance. But also, you probably know that there are other residents that think short-term rentals are a good thing. And so we tried to come up with a draft law that had some balance between that so we could hear from the public, and that's basically where we're at right now. Deputy Supervisor Reichgott really was just charged by the town board to assemble a document that was a consensus of all our work and responses. And then again, if you followed along over these months, you know, we were advised that you really need to put something in front of the public in order to get a public hearing on the books and out in the open. And that's where we're at. Amy, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Not at the moment, but if people have questions about the legal aspects, I'm happy to provide some background.
Well, I'd like to turn, Jay, since you've had the task of assembling this, I also want to give you the opportunity to get us going and help explain where we're at with this process.
Okay, thank you. As Ken said, I got the enviable task of putting this law, of shepherding this law through the process. And this started because there were questions about the legality of short-term rentals in town. And it was determined that as currently the code is written, short-term rentals are not permitted in the town of Tuxedo. That prohibition, however, is rather weak because of the way it exists. It exists because short-term rentals are not a permitted use. There's very little in the way of the ability to enforce that in terms of process, and it's difficult to determine if something is legitimately a short-term rental or not, because this is America. You can't send the cops to kick down somebody's door and see how many people are staying at their house and whether or not they live there. So we started to look at laws from other communities that dealt with short-term rentals. And we were also trying to balance both the complaints we got from people about short-term rentals and the obvious desire of some residents to have short-term rentals, existing ones, and people asking what the process would be to have one legally. And so we came up with the draft that everyone has seen, which is an attempt to balance all of those positions and write a law that would allow but regulate short-term rentals. We put it together, we discussed it. There's been discussions for the last 6 months. They happened in this room. You know, they were workshops, but we did get some comments. And then we put the law out as a draft, according to the forms, for public comment, as Ken has said. And the public comment that we got back was overwhelmingly that people don't want short-term rentals. Okay. So we're going to have the rest of this public comment session because that's why we're all here. My expectation is that after the public comment has completed, we are going to retract this draft. That is to say, because we introduced it, we're going to retract it. That's not tabling it, that's not putting it aside for a couple weeks until everything dies down and then passing it. It is taking it off the table completely. What we're then gonna do is work on a different rental law that includes strengthening the existing position of the town, which is that short-term rentals are not permitted. There's always one. So, don't put the tomatoes away. It's okay. That's where I was. So that's where I see this going. I think you're here, we're here to hear you. Be nice, and we'll
We'll be nice.
through it all together.
I just want to also point out, it should be no surprise, anybody who's been involved with the town. Most of the code has been written a long time ago, and we struggle to update it. The whole notion of short-term rentals is an issue that municipalities, states are facing, corporations are dealing with all over. And we're a little town that's just trying to figure it out like everybody else. And so our code needs updating. And we clearly understand this draft is not, I want to assure you that that's not where this is going, okay? But I'm just hoping you understand that that's part of the process, as Jay pointed out. You know, we received input from both sides, and we tried to come up with a draft because let's face it, it got you guys here to tell us what you think, and that is the process. And I assure you, this board works for you. We are striving to get the code right, and the code, the draft law that we put together, I mean, the comments that were so well articulated by the group, and I see there's a few new faces here now tonight. Me personally, I agree with almost all of it, me personally. And I'm not gonna speak for my board members, but obviously, the action we're taking here tonight is to clearly demonstrate that not only do we hear you, but I also want to point out, it ain't fixed yet. We still have these problems, and we know the municipalities are going to be fighting this for years to come because we're dealing with large corporations that are going to try to figure out ways to make it so they get what they want to. And so we're going to strive to get it right. And it's only through these kind of opportunities that we really hear from you guys. It's rare that we get more than Dale and Jerry coming to our meetings. So I say that respectfully. They come to every bleeping meeting. And no one does that. And so people usually come out, as I say, when there's a fire on their lawn. Well, there's a fire on our lawn, and rightfully so, you came out. And I just want to make sure you understand that this isn't lip service. We absolutely hear you, and we want to hear you again tonight. You don't need to repeat exactly what was already stated, because I want you to clearly understand we've heard you. And the rescinding of this, again, as Jay was pointing out, is not just, we're putting it under the table and waiting. No. This is going to be a hard subject to tackle. And we did look at the Village of Tuxedo Park's law, and there's a lot of stuff that we'll be considering. And but currently on our books, we don't even have laws about rentals in general. And so it's not just one issue that we have to fix here, but the issue of short-term rentals will be addressed.
I just wanted to, just one thing I wanted to add too is that I was surprised that you assumed malice or carelessness on our part. I mean, we are here to serve you. That's our job. We did this because we heard you and we heard your complaints. And I was surprised. I mean, you are our neighbors and our friends. And for you to think that any of us would demean a part of town or do something out of malice or disdain was really surprising to me, because I don't think we're that kind of board. And we work hard for you. It's our service. So, I want you to, I don't mean to get emotional, but I really want you to think about that. And I thank you for your comments.
Now, I'll add that, in the law that we drafted, thank you. We put numbers in for how many days a year, how many days a week, whatever. It was all just a starting point to get feedback. And also, as both Jay and Ken were saying, we've been looking throughout the state of New York as to what other towns are doing to try and get the best. But, the fact that there are short-term rentals that exist, we wanted to try and find a way to regulate them so that they wouldn't have an impact on their neighborhoods. So that's just an additional comment.
I just want to summarize some of the comments that you guys gave, because not all of you were here. All the commentators on the September 11th were critical of the draft local law and expressed that the town should adopt legislation to prohibit STRs, short-term rentals, not merely regulate them. The public comments addressed an array of different issues, including but not limited to the following. The Village of Tuxedo Park adopted legislation to prohibit short-term rentals in 2018, and commenters stated the town should follow the village's approach. Commentators stated that short-term rentals are commercial in nature, and even if they are subject to licensing regulations, they will inevitably be in conflict with the non-commercial character of Tuxedo's residential neighborhoods. Commenters stated that the negative impacts of short-term rentals would include, among other things, noise, trash, traffic, and parking impacts, reduced property values, and reduced quality of life, more frequent building code violations, and threats to public safety. Several commenters expressed negative opinions about the types of people who seek out transient housing and renters in general, claiming that short-term rentals would attract drug dealers, registered sex offenders, and other criminals. To some commenters, the 180-day limitation on short-term rentals and the provisions authorizing short-term rentals in R1, R2, and conservation districts appeared to be arbitrary. And some commenters stated that short-term rental licensing would be a drain on town resources, as it would require additional staff and would impose new regulatory and financial burdens. Commenters also expressed skepticism that the local law would be or could be enforced. One commenter expressed concern that short-term rentals would reduce the available housing stock for families in the already very small Tuxedo Public School District. I'll just remind you, people ask, well, why now? And as I stated the other night on the 11th, well, a lot of this has been triggered by complaints that have been received by the town board, and we're just trying to figure it out. And as I said, I can assure you that I haven't made any decision, that this is just the first step. But we're beyond the first step now, because we heard your comments, and now tonight we're responding. So, I mean, we could respond to each of those individual points. I'd like to give a little feedback as to,
Okay.
The quality of life to me is obviously, I think, who moved to Tuxedo for the quiet, peaceful environs? Yeah. No mystery. You put two hands up if my feet are raised right now that you can't see them. That's why I moved here. And, Yeah, I have some serious concerns about this balance between commercial and residential. To me, a residential neighborhood is strictly that. There were some comments about the types of people who seek out transient housing. I think that's a very small minority, but it doesn't matter. If it was one that was next door to you, that's one's enough. And it is true, as was brought out, that, yeah, there was a drug activity near the Ren Fair site that was very serious.
Okay, but I'm gonna jump in here.
Go ahead.
Yes, there was a drug incident.
Yeah.
It happened to be in a house that was being used for short-term rental.
Right.
All of the people who take up short-term rentals, or for that matter, the people who are renters of any kind, they're not all drug dealing sex offenders who are here to eat our children.
I agree, absolutely.
And I would venture to guess, but it's only a guess, that if you looked at the number of events, crimes that are committed, the number of crimes that are committed by short-term rental occupants are no higher and may very well be lower than in the general public. Nobody knows who their neighbors are until the cops show up at their house.
Yeah, no, I just reiterate that I opened that statement by saying it's a very small number. But, okay, there's not a chance. So, as I stated earlier, the need to update this code is obvious. And that will be the task of this town board to move that forward.
Absolutely.
We do have zoning for bed and breakfast, correct? And we were trying to look to see
The
how
town,
does that compare with the short-term rentals, and realizing it doesn't. So,
right, short-term rentals are not bed and breakfasts.
Right.
Bed and breakfast is a subcategory of hotel.
Right, right. So we have that in the code, but
And
this
they're,
is a completely new game in town.
absolutely.
We do want to hear from everyone who's here.
Absolutely, this is a public hearing, we should let the public talk.
Absolutely. I'm questioning though, as you stated, you expect that we will take a vote to rescind this draft law.
Yes, because I'm planning on introducing that motion at the end of the hearing.
I'm not sure if we can introduce that now or, and keep the public hearing open or just,
Amy?
Does that mean ban it?
No. Like we said previously, we're going to take this draft, we're going to retract this draft. We will then work on a different piece of legislation that will clarify the current position, which is that short-term rentals are not permitted in the town of Tuxedo, and deal with some other issues revolving around rentals that need to be addressed to make that enforceable. But our action tonight doesn't ban anything, it doesn't change the status.
that wouldn't legally be possible. We can't just take a vote to ban. That would have to be a legislated law or a change to the existing law. So the intent of the retraction and the statements that we're making is to move in that direction. But similarly to how we got you to come out here now, we have to have a draft law to put out there for everyone to respond to. everyone to be able, you can't just change a law without public hearings that specifically puts something in front of people to know what action we're trying to take. So I know the desired, believe me, I know the desired effect that you walk out of here going, wow, they banned.
Well,
but-
what
but
we
I-
really want is to ban it, just like the park.
No, I understand, and
That's
if you heard.
our ultimate goal.
I'll just reiterate what Deputy Supervisor Reichcott was just saying. We know that it is currently not a permitted use.
Okay.
But that's not as strong enough to say. That's simply, we know that leaving it like that would not get us where we want to be. And Jay was probably saying it better than I am right now, but we know, as in the Village of Tuxedo's law, which obviously we read many times, there's issues like you can't advertise, would be in violation of the code. You can't advertise.
All right.
Because it was brought to our attention constitutional challenges to this law. And as Jay was explaining, and it takes me 3 or 4 times to get this in my head, exactly what are we talking about, the constitutionality? It's like, okay, how do you prove somebody's not a family member who's in this temporary, short-term, or even know that money was exchanged to make it a real rental in these kind of things? And so just banning it would not do that. You know, finding those verifiable, enforceable.
Well, you just said something, you said that they advertise.
Right.
I mean, we know now in our neighborhood, somebody is advertising.
Oh, you need a
I'm
microphone.
sorry.
Can we let Amy talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Barbara Baza, 21 Alma Court. And you mentioned advertising, and we know that some people do advertise now. So would they be held accountable for that?
I mean, that's the intention of enforcement.
Okay.
Amy, I don't know if you can add something.
I would note that with any governmental regulation that restricts people's speech, there's an issue of whether or not there are First Amendment problems with that. So this is something that's come up in other places that have put restrictions on advertisements. I don't know off the top of my head what the rule is in New York, but it's something that we need to look into more.
I think the point that we're trying to make is, we can't say tonight that this is banned. We have to craft a new law that gives us definition and gives us a procedure for enforcement. Am I saying this right, Amy? I think so.
Yes.
So if you look, for example, at the Tuxedo Park law, it's a really short law. It's like 2 pages long, right? There's a lot of little details in there to make it enforceable, and also avoid the unintended consequences that simply saying you can't have people stay at your house for less than 30 days would create, right? That law very specifically allows you to have a house sitter come stay at your house if you're on vacation for a month, or a week, or 3 days. Allows you to have friends over if they don't rent the house. I can
If
see,
you exchange money, then it's a whole different.
absolutely, and that's my point. The law has to be crafted to prevent the things we don't want, while allowing the things that everybody expects are going to be okay.
Can't
Of
we
the-
just extend the law that the park has to our,
No.
no?
No.
Why?
The Village of Tuxedo Park is its own municipality. We are not subject to their laws. And while they are subject to some town laws, because the town supersedes in the hierarchy of things a village, there are whole sections of law that the village has priority jurisdiction on, zoning, a number of other things. That's the whole point of there being villages. So what we can do is look to their law as a model, just like we've looked to other municipalities, to craft a law that, for the town, that does what we want it to do. But whatever our short-term rental law turns out to be, doesn't apply to the village of Tuxedo Park. That's why they have their own law.
Well, I know Clarkstown and Orangetown made it illegal. So can we call them and see what they did?
We have looked at their law. We are going to continue to look at their law, at other municipalities' laws. We still need to generate our own law.
But let me just remind you of the opening thought here. Right now, short-term rentals in Tuxedo are not permitted. And we are looking to strengthen that, okay? So in essence, it's the ban.
I believe you can.
No, but I'm saying, in essence, but until we have crafted something again to put out there, and I guarantee you we'll go through the same process, and I would expect all of you to come because you're smart people and added a lot to this conversation that we knew when we had this public hearing. Believe me, no surprise. If I wasn't supervisor, I'd be sitting there.
Well, I do have a question for the attorney. We do find it very discriminating that you picked that R1 or 2 and C. I mean.
Okay, I'll tell you why. We're looking at setbacks. And what, again, also based on other town laws. Part of the thinking was who would be furthest away from the next door neighbor. That's as simple as that.
Well, we read that. You were on an acre, but some of my neighbors aren't on an acre.
Okay, so then we hear your feedback. So I wouldn't hold on to that too much
My
because.
neighbor, I'm on 9 acres. My neighbors can hear me scream at my kids.
And I get that too, if you could hear in a quiet neighborhood, you could hear somebody, and
I would
all I
also-
could say is, we heard you, Barbara, absolutely.
And I'll go back to what our original
But
intention,
I'm sorry, the deputy supervisor's trying to speak.
our original intention in crafting this draft was to put together a law that allowed and regulated short-term rentals. Now, as Ken has said, as I've said, we've heard you. We're retracting that law. We're going to be crafting a different law. But, so,
With the intention of strengthening what's currently on the books that I've been trying to work with our building inspectors, like, how do you enforce these laws? Talking to the cops, how do you enforce this? Because we really don't, the only thing we have right now is not a permitted use. That's really weak, really weak. And our code is fraught with all kinds of horse and buggy language. You were on the board.
I
Bill.
chaired a committee to revise that.
Yeah.
But we spent months
Yeah.
going through it. I don't know if our suggestions were ever implemented.
Well, if they weren't put into the code, well, then they weren't, okay? So there's been a lot of discussion. I've been living here for over 20 years. I hear a lot of discussion, but action, not so much, okay? We're trying to take action on a lot of things. And on this, we're gonna do everything possible to get it right. And we're going to strengthen the current position, okay? And we know that's not gonna end it. Other people are gonna come in and try to, tweak it another way. Mary, could you just state your name
I
and,
just want to go on record and give Marissa the
but you need to take the
you take the microphone.
microphone.
Here's the answer. I did the petition with Karen and Barbara Lonza, and I want to go on record that there's 59 signatures. All the people here except a few are from our area. Everybody, only one person did not sign. I went to every house almost. Some people were not home or whatever. So only one person didn't sign. Mrs. Kaufman, who lived behind the gate, and she wouldn't let Sharon and I come up the driveway. So this is our position. Everyone is against it.
Understood.
I showed people what the law, the 12 pages, and what Sharon has put together. So I want to go on record that we submitted this, and everybody got a copy.
It's important that you go on record, absolutely.
All these people live, I walked everybody's house. And not everybody has a lot of frontage or back.
I'm sorry, I missed the last thing you said.
Not everybody has a lot of frontage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Not everybody I went to have, some of them have tiny little homes, not by us, but somewhere else.
No, and as Sharon pointed out to me, just because you have a big lot doesn't mean your house isn't close to the next door neighbor. You know, got it, absolutely.
And I'd like to speak here. Sharon Radlow, 10 Susan Court. I just want the board to know that I did prepare a follow-up presentation based on, what I talked about last time. But I have heard what the board has said, so I'm not going to read my prepared presentation. I'm going to wait for the new version. From what I'm hearing, Jay has agreed that you're going to retract and you're going to draw upon the prohibiting of short-term rentals. I did want to mention though, for Marie, I saw that she was very emotional and feeling that you can't understand how people could even think that you would not want the best for the town. And I only want you to understand that people who were sitting on this side really felt the same way, because we felt, what a shock. How could they even suggest such a thing? Because, really, the only reason that I could come up with was because you wouldn't be affected based on your own, where you live, not being in a zone where it would be permitted. So that's the reason, just so that you understand why anybody here would think that you weren't looking out for
I'm not sure that
interests.
microphone is actually turned on.
Really? Okay. Our red?
It should be green, I think.
Okay.
Is it green now? Is it green now?
You can't
It's
really
not
hear,
that
it's really for the
amplified.
people.
If you
Yeah,
can
it's
show
for the
me if
people.
it's green,
It's for the
Okay.
screen.
Yeah,
Is it
no,
green?
no, it's green now.
okay.
I'm sorry to the people
That's
in the,
okay.
They probably heard it anyway.
I'm a
We have,
loudspeaker.
we have microphones all throughout.
I just wanted Marie to understand that because she is emotional on there, that same emotion that you were feeling is exactly that same emotion that I was feeling, that I felt that you weren't looking out for my best interests. And so that's why I prepared the presentation that I did. Just wanted to put that out there. And I also wanted to mention, as you stated earlier, that you have to look into, how to change the law, that I did prepare, I am going to provide a copy of the Town of Stony Point, as they have prohibited it, a copy of their law. I've also I'm going to provide a copy of the Town of Haverstraw, as they have prohibited short-term rentals. I'm also providing a copy of Blooming Grove, as they have prohibited short-term rentals. I've already provided Tuxedo Park, the village, and also the town of Clarkstown. So I'm sure there's more, but there are other towns that are nearby that I'm going to provide their law, the law, how they're prohibiting it. And so, I can see that you're going to take that into account.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I really do look forward to seeing the rescinded version of the new,
Well, yeah,
not the rescinded version,
Yes,
but
yes.
the,
yeah.
but
The-
the.
New version.
The expanded version of the current law where it's prohibited.
Clarity
but-
in the code that will
Clarity in
be
the
a
code.
local law, part
Right.
of our code.
And I did not see anything on bed and breakfasts in the town code other than the definition. of
Yeah.
Bed and breakfast.
It's
Town,
easy to
so,
find.
so bed and breakfasts are defined. They are not permitted uses in any zoning district, except in the section under beneficial reuse of historic properties,
Okay.
where there are,
Which again, is a little too vague, in my view.
we're gonna,
I don't know what historical buildings there are and how they're designated as historical.
Well, I want to thank the board for taking the comments into consideration. I really appreciate it. Does anybody else want to speak up?
I do have a written submission from Mr. Lemansky.
From who?
I'll pass on Mr. Lemansky.
Oh, okay.
You don't have a written statement.
You could read it into the record if you like. I can assure you, Bill, that. Go ahead.
However, some of what I wrote may be obsolete now based on what I learned.
So you
Understood.
could be the judge of that.
Okay. Mind if I sit?
Not at all. And Sharon, everything that you submit will be part of the record, but
I would like to
you guys
submit,
have made your point, I can tell you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bill, please.
I would like to submit a brief excerpt of a study written by a researcher at the University of Virginia entitled Rental Housing and Crime: The Role of Property Ownership and Management. I'm going to read, this is a 30-page report
Oh, boy.
by the university. I'm not going to read 30 pages, but I will read an excerpt from summary and
Okay.
conclusions. This study investigates how residential rental property ownership and management qualities affect crime. For three types of incidents: disturbances, assault, and drugs, landlord remoteness from properties is positively associated with reported criminal activity. This association may be caused by management quality deterioration due to the increased costs of conducting business from a distance, or a remote landlord's ability to ignore some of the external costs imposed by tenant misbehavior on neighbors. Non-resident landlords may be less selective in choice of tenants, more accommodating of behavior and lifestyles that they would not accept if located, quote, next door to their own residence, and less likely to employ effective surveillance and security measures. That's the end of the summary. This is my writing now.
Okay.
A quick Google search on short-term rental property crime will raise numerous studies, news articles, and reports of how short-term rentals have had a negative effect on communities and neighborhoods regarding crime and mayhem. I might add, which I didn't write here, there's a significant controversy in the city of Boston right now with that issue. You may have heard it on the news or read about it in the newspapers. I don't understand how this board can believe this law is in the best interest and safety for the residents of Tuxedo. Again, I wrote this before hearing the rules tonight. And besides, approval of short-term rentals will place them potentially in close proximity of the Tuxedo School District with unknown transients near school children. Rhetorical question. Is this responsible government? Very sensibly, the Tuxedo Park Board avoided the possibility of these problems. Thank you. That's the end of my statement.
Thank you. I'll just reiterate again, took a first stab at trying to put something out there that would bring in comment both for and against, and But,
I understand your motivations now, I appreciate
okay,
it.
well, thank you.
However, when I wrote that, I didn't.
Yeah,
know
well,
What
again.
the rationale was behind what you were doing.
And until you get people in, you can't have these dialogues, so I'll consider it a great success that we got your attention and you got ours.
You know what, I just wanted to say that, the whole quest, Mr. Lynch wrote a letter to me, an email to me, saying, oh my gosh, we have this problem in Clinton Woods there's this, and then we went to find out what we could do, and we found out, oh, well, short-term rentals aren't allowed here. But the person in that particular case was saying, oh, they're my family members. And when the police would go to them, he would say, they're my family members. So that was we were like, oh my goodness, we have to do something else. We were to do something to, hold accountable these property owners who are lying to the police and hurting their neighbors. And actually, that was the beginning of looking at this. How do we know who these people are, and how do we know that they are, doing this, and how do we, curtail what they can do in these properties? And honestly, it was not in any disregard or saying, oh, it's better in one house or another, or one part of town or another, other than like step by step trying to minimize any negative effect, but at the same time being able to do something in a regulatory fashion to, to stop what was happening to you guys with these properties. So from our point of view, that's how it started. It started as a way to help you, not as a, way to do something, or there's no benefit to us. We just, we want to do it we wanted to do whatever it is that needed to be done so that this wasn't happening to you.
We also put in provisions where people would have probationary periods, and if complaints came in that, were followed up and we realized that they were a problem, then they would lose their right to do it. So, I mean, we were,
Well,
as we've been saying, we've
as
been
we've been
trying
saying.
to protect the towns, and that's what
What
we're
we
trying to
really
do.
want is a complete ban.
And
Well, now we
that's
know.
understood.
Well,
We want our peace of mind. We moved here for peace of mind, and you can't replace that.
So is it okay? Can I speak now? I don't know if that's okay.
Go ahead, I recognize Christy Apostolides.
Yeah,
Could you
this is
just state
Christy.
your address, Christy?
Sure, this is Christy Apostolides. I'm at Cross Ridge Road in Laurel Ridge. I wanted to, actually, I've been speaking with Maria about this a while too. I actually live next door to an existing Airbnb. And I have to say that, an illegal Airbnb, but I have to say that I was coming here prepared to, give my actual support for the way the law was written, because I think that I have probably is what the best case scenario is. They're up here enough that I know who they are, the owners. We've had pretty much no issues other than a dog running on our deck once. It's run by a management company, but I have to admit, I'm very pleased to see that you're rescinding the law, because even though this is literally a best case scenario, I think with an Airbnb rental, it was still weird. It was still bizarre not knowing who is staying next door to you on any random given weekend. I moved up here for the same reason everybody else did. We're bordering on the state park. We love being outside. I've got a 7-year-old who's outside by herself. And so I'm pleased that you guys are rescinding the law and are considering a ban. Even in the best case scenario, it was uncomfortable, and I didn't like the fact that I was uncomfortable in my own house. So I understand the reasoning why people have Airbnbs. I've stayed at Airbnbs myself even, but yeah, now I'm reconsidering it, having sort of experienced what it's like to live next door to one. So, and I actually did make a comment I sent an email to the town board I used to be on the planning board. I know procedurally how things work. And I actually asked them, to workshop this because I felt that I sort of assumed that you would get the kind of reaction that you got because it was very much a one-sided conversation among town board members when you were drafting this law. And there wasn't a possibility for dialogue. And that makes townspeople feel disempowered. And so I think that that's a really important thing going forward. As you're knowing this is going to be a controversial issue, there are mechanisms to make there are procedural mechanisms that enable you to really incorporate the townspeople as you're drafting it, as you're putting these laws together, and as you're making these considerations, because it does appear, and I know that it's not the case because I've been on your side of the podium, so to speak, but it does appear malicious when you just present a drafted law. So, I just, for future town board members and for future considerations of future laws, this is a really, I grew up in the world of community development. And so I have a very different perspective about how things are done, and they are definitely done from the ground up. And I see that it's not your fault. I think governmentally across the board, procedurally, things are messed up. This is things that I've said in many other town board meetings and even the planning board meetings. So I just, that's just one other point I wanted to put out there. But again, I'm glad you're rescinding the law. I support a ban, even though I'm living next door to a scenario that I really do believe is a best case scenario with an Airbnb. Thanks.
Thank you. We do have several people online, and if you want to raise your hand or unmute yourself, this would be an opportunity.
Actually, I want to thank Christy Apostolides because she originally, when we were starting to ask questions about this, she had compiled a whole file of information, which was really helpful to us to become acquainted with the issue. And so thank you.
I like to do my homework, so you're welcome anytime.
You certainly did.
This is called teacher wait time. You usually have to give people at least a minute to unmute themselves if they so choose. Well, Jay, I think you were going to make a motion.
You need to close the hearing first.
Oh.
Can you hear us?
I can't hear you. What's labeled as
I am so
Anthony.
sorry.
Please go
It's
ahead.
Anthony
Yes.
and Kristen, and we were at the September 11th meeting.
Yes.
And sorry, we got engaged this weekend and we're getting married, so we didn't come tonight. But maybe you can help us with that at a later thingy. Anyway, we are pleased to hear that you are dealing with this issue. And we also live across the street from a situation. But we also live up the street from a situation that isn't even being discussed here. And can we talk about the rooster at some other part? But it is an issue, and this is our neighborhood, and we moved here because we want to be safe, and we want our children to be safe, and that has not been the situation. But I don't even think it's what we're talking about tonight. I think it's about enforcing code, and I don't know what's going on, but something isn't right, because it's not even the Airbnb across the street. It's what's going on in our neighborhood. So I'm glad. I can't even tell you. Like, I will go to every board meeting, and I think a lot of people don't. We don't go to these things because we just assume that people are going to take care of our neighborhoods, but we have to take care of our neighborhoods. And there is stuff going on that isn't what we're talking about tonight. And it is also what we're talking about tonight. So thank you for what you're doing. But there's also, I don't know what's going on with code enforcement and roosters and other cars and disgusting things. Just, I thank you. we thank you. And we'll be going to every board meeting because I feel like you're listening and you're hearing us. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for that, and congratulations on your engagement and upcoming nuptials. Thank you, Anthony and Kristen.
I will say that there's only one code enforcement official, and he can't be everywhere all at once. So if there are issues in your neighborhood, talk to the building department, or if necessary, the police, or talk to one of us on the board so that we can start to do something. We can't address issues we don't know about.
Thank you. Anybody else virtually? There's a hand up. I believe it says Nicole. Sorry, the screen is far from me and my eye chart.
You're still muted. She's still
You
muted.
need to unmute yourself, Nicole. If you're on the phone, I think it's a *6 unmute. If you're on a computer, you need to unmute.
Hi, how are you? Sorry,
Hey.
I was looking for.
There you go.
Button. I just want. Oh, I live on 261 Benjamin Meadow Road. So, I first heard about this some time ago, and I did sign a petition as well that came around. I have 2 young children, and I do have a big concern about this. As someone has stated earlier, I've stayed in Airbnbs myself. I usually stay in Airbnbs that are secluded and not near anyone's home, because as a homeowner, I know how it feels to have a stranger next to you or someone you don't know, even though they are being respectful. So I do appreciate you guys taking into consideration what the people want. And I do agree with the gentleman that just spoke before, who said if there's an issue, they're not going to know we have to bring it up. So I do know it's our duty as well as residents to see what's going on in our neighborhoods. And if there's anything funny, any funny business, talk to your neighbors and bring it up to you guys as well. An email will suffice, a phone call, but I do think we all need to be on the same page. And I really, really appreciate you guys listening. I deal with Renaissance Fair and how the road had to be closed here. So I know when our voices are heard, things will happen. But unless we speak up, we can't expect things to happen. So on that note, I want to say thank you from us, because this is really, really moving towards the direction that we want our neighborhood to stay in. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Last call for comment. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to, having closed this public hearing, I want to make sure I get that, having heard from anyone who wanted to be heard, I'm going to make a motion to close this public hearing at 8:04 p.m. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Maria May. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jay, I think you wanted to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to withdraw the draft local law entitled, I can't remember, short-term rentals.
Chapter 20, I believe.
Yeah, it was gonna be 81, but that's okay. And that we further consider the matter to develop a better law.
I'll second that.
Anybody
You do a
have
roll call
more
vote.
discussion than that? Or are we ready?
I'm ready.
All right, all in favor?
I think
Aye.
You
do a
want to do it by roll
vote.
call?
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
so.
Starting at one end of the table and working my way over. Ms. Murphy,
Aye.
Ms. May,
Aye.
Mr. English,
Absolutely, aye.
Ms. Lindsay,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. So, it's unanimous.
It's not only
Give me back your
unanimous,
paper.
I know it's unanimous with the people here, and we need you to be a part of crafting the law as we move forward. Thank you for all your hard work, all of you, especially you, Sharon. You really knocked it out of the park. And,
She's very good.
And just to a little controlling of expectations, we're not gonna be introducing this next week. It's gonna take a little bit of time to get this put together.
get it right.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
You're not staying for the rest of the meeting? Is that what you're telling us? Oh. You going home to watch The Voice or Monday Night Football or what's going on?
Very stimulating.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Look who's staying now. The model citizens.
Thank you.
Most everybody left, or they're in the process of leaving, so we're gonna just take a minute to settle. We're not adjourning or anything, just give. Thank you. All right, we're going to resume. Thank you for your patience. Public comments on agenda items? I'll just point out that with every agenda item, if you have a comment, we'll get it in. So most of these aren't really all that commentable. Agenda item number 1, resolution to consider a bid proposal for the Ford F-250. I'll make a motion, as for a second, that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby accepts the bid proposed submitted by Healy Brothers Ford in the amount of $68,626.50. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Seconded by Jay. It's open for town board comment at this point. I have a question. Marissa, how many bids did we actually get?
One.
One. And this was exactly for the truck that we wanted, right?
Yes.
And is this cost just for the truck, or is it for the whole package?
No, the whole package
This
with
is
the
including the spreader
and
the,
salter, plow.
plow. Okay, that's actually a pretty good price.
Yeah, I'd like to buy a truck for that price. And it's gonna be financed 5 years, I believe. yes?
Correct.
And I-
5 or 3?
Oh,
wasn't sure.
I said correct. I don't know that part. I know it is going to be financed, and once they get those numbers to us, once you award them this bid, they'll get the finance terms over, and then you'll have to approve that.
And this is
Another
through
meeting.
Ford Motor Company financing?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So this is the standard municipal lease-to-own
Yes,
contracts that we
we've
regularly
been doing, yes.
employ. Well, I just, the supply chain issue has been ridiculous as, to try to get a truck that's actually on the lot is not easy. And there's no wonder that we only got one bid from a vendor that actually has a truck. So, no surprise there. Any further comment on this?
I'm good.
To my right, any further comment? Can I?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 2, a resolution settling a tax, I would say certiorari, is that how
Yeah,
that-
certiorari.
Certiorari, okay. At a town board meeting of the town of Tuxedo, County of Orange, State of New York, held at Town Hall in said town on the 25th day of September 2023. Whereas Martin Friedman has commenced the tax certiorari proceeding against the town of Tuxedo in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Orange for the following years: 2021, 2022, tax assessment year bearing index number EF005239-2021. And then again, 2022, 2023 tax assessment year bearing index number EF004063-2022. And then 2023, 2024 tax assessment year bearing index number EF004671-2023. Whereas it appears from the recommendation of the town assessor and Kara J. Cavallo, Esquire of J&G Law LLP, counsel for the town of Tuxedo, in the aforesaid proceedings, upon a thorough investigation of the claims, that further proceedings and litigation by the town would involve considerable expense with the attendant uncertainty of the outcome, and that the settlement of the the settlement of the above matter as more fully set forth below is reasonable and in the best interests of the town. And whereas Martin Friedman is willing to settle this proceeding without interest, costs, or disbursement in the following manner. Number one, that the proceeding for the 2021, I'll restate that. Number one, that the proceeding for the 2021-2022 tax year be compromised and settled by the assessment being reduced from $243,200 to a total assessment of $210,600 for a total reduction in assessment of $32,600 for tax map number 106-145. That the proceeding for the 2022-2023 tax year be compromised and settled by there being no reduction in the assessment of $243,200 for tax map number 106-1-45. That the proceeding for the 2023-2024 tax year be compromised and settled by the assessment being reduced from $243,200 to a total assessment of $210,600 for a total reduction in assessment of $32,600 for tax map number 106-1-45. That the petitioner's real property taxes on said parcel above described for the 2021, 2022, and 2023, 2024 school taxes, and for the 2021 and 2023 county taxes and town taxes be adjusted accordingly, and the petitioner being reimbursed for any overpayment or be credited with the corresponding decrease in taxes as the case may be. Number three, that the assessment of the 2023 assessment year shall be reduced to $210,600 with the provisions of real property tax law 727 to apply. Now be it therefore resolved that the proposed settlement as set forth and described above is hereby accepted pursuant to Law 68, Article 68 of Town Law, and it is further resolved that Jim Davies, assessor of the town of Tuxedo, and Kara J. Cavallo, Esquire, on behalf of J&G Law LLP, be and they hereby are designated as officers of the town who shall apply for such approval pursuant to the aforesaid section and law, and be it further on a motion made by myself, Ken English, and ask for a second that the following resolution was adopted to a vote. So first, I'm just going to make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Jay Reichcott. And I believe this matter has been before the town board for consideration, and are we ready to vote on this?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. When it says that they'll be reimbursed or credited, is that usual? I mean, is it easier to just credit them on future?
I'm not exactly sure how it'll work in this case, but this is Kara is, she's got a lot of experience with these and she understands how to do it.
Seems to be easier, right?
Yeah.
To just
Some of
credit
that,
them?
I think some of that has to do with what the litigant will accept as well. I don't think we get a choice. It's not necessarily a choice,
I-
only by us.
I think it may also have to do with the different taxing authorities that are involved.
I was thinking that myself. Prepared to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll just point out for the public, both our tax assessor and attorney have spent a lot of time on this, and their professional advice is that we got a very good settlement. Agenda item number 3. Resolution to authorize J&G Law for 2023-2024 tax certiorari proceedings. Of course, we don't know what will come before us, but we need to have attorneys ready for that. Actually, this is a specific case, excuse me. Whereas the following tax certiorari proceedings have been commenced against the town of Tuxedo to contest the 2023-2024 assessment roll. LR Tuxedo Development Group LLC, EF 004603-2023, and Martin Friedman, EF 004671-2023. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Tuxedo, Orange County, New York, that the law firm of J&G Law LLP is hereby authorized to defend the town in the above-mentioned cases. On a motion made by myself, Ken English, ask for a second. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. So this is a motion to engage our attorneys and authorize them to basically proceed with this case. I have a second by Michelle. I'll just ask for a show of hands. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Okay, agenda item number 4. Resolution to authorize J&G Law to draft a request for proposals for the companies, for companies to provide fuel to the town of Tuxedo. I don't see,
It's on numbers, it's on the bottom of page 6. It's right under the
Yeah, here it
tax
is.
certiorari one. We're
Oh, we
saving
have-
paper.
We have number 6 here.
Page
Oh, no,
6.
this is not it.
Page 6. Page 6.
There's a title, but no.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we don't have, so let me jump in.
okay,
As you guys know, the town buys an awful lot of fuel, both diesel and gasoline, and puts it into an awful lot of vehicles. That is our own fleet of town vehicles, police cars, highway department vehicles.
ambulance call.
That's, yeah, but that's, I'll get there. Wait a second.
Sorry.
It's okay. And the, building inspector's vehicle, that kind of stuff, the dog catcher, animal control officer. We also provide fueling services to the ambulance corps, to the fire district. All the firehouses fill up at our pumps. The Village of Tuxedo Park Police Force and DPW. And until recently, and maybe continue. School buses. Although there is some question as whether, now that the Tuxedo Union Free School District is chartering out their bus service, whether we're gonna continue to do that, but it's immaterial. There are 2 things that we don't have. We don't have any intermunicipal agreements or memorandum of understanding between the town and all the people we provide fuel with. It's all done, like everything in Tuxedo, it's been done on a handshake that was made, 30 years ago. So the first thing we want to authorize is J&G to write those agreements so that we can have a contract with those people. Because there's been some friction in collecting monies and running that. Nobody knows what the rules are. The second, or maybe it's the third thing, is we buy our fuel from a company who's a very nice company, and I'm sure, and we have never in living memory gone out to RFP for our fuel supplier. And maybe we're getting the best price, but it's a procurement item that totals hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and it should go to bid. So we would like them to put together the request for proposal or bid or whatever it is, whichever the right paperwork is, to do that as well. Did I get anything wrong?
No, I think right now, it strictly is the RFP that we're discussing, and all the other things still need to be straightened out. But that's action that our legal team is already authorized to do. But the RFP, we need a formal process to move that forward, absolutely.
Yes.
So I'll second that motion to
Sure.
authorize J&G Law to draft a request for proposal for the companies that provide fuel to the town of Tuxedo.
It might be a request for bid, but.
I'm sorry?
It might be a request for bid. I
Right.
can't remember. One's for services and one's for stuff, but whichever, they'll know.
Absolutely. Again, needs to be done.
And the process for keeping track, I know there was a problem a couple of years ago, so we need to really straighten that out.
There was a couple of years ago, there was a equipment problem.
Right,
And-
exactly, and it was a while, I think, before we realized that there was.
Yes. And the people responsible for that have been executed, or, sorry, no longer with the town. But yes, that particular problem has been resolved. The system is much more robust actually now for the record keeping. The reason that we realized we were having these troubles with no contracts is when we then went to try to sort out payments for all the fuel that got dispensed without good record keeping. We ran into some issues.
I would just point out, that's a conversation for another day, not necessarily
Yeah.
this resolution. So,
Correct,
I
sorry.
agree.
I'm
But
ready
the
to
short
vote.
version of that is we are keeping track of the fuel again. That
Absolutely.
particular problem has been fixed.
I'm ready to vote.
Me too. Okay, but I do have a question about when will we be discussing these agreements with the other districts?
I'd like to stay on
Okay,
this
all
right
right,
now.
all right.
No, sorry.
We're not going to?
No,
Okay.
not in the middle of a motion on
Okay.
an RFP.
Okay.
Okay, then I guess I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item number 5. A resolution to introduce local law and schedule a public hearing to increase the tax cap. I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that an introductory local law entitled Tax Levy Limit Override 2024 Fiscal Year be and it hereby is introduced by, I'll put my name in there, Ken English, before the town board of the town of Tuxedo in the county of Orange and state of New York. And be it further resolved that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law be laid upon the desk of each member of the board. And be it further resolved that the board hold a public hearing on said proposed local law at the town hall, town of Tuxedo. I'll fill that in a minute. Be further resolved that the clerk publish or cause to be published a public notice in the official newspaper of the town of Tuxedo of said public hearing at least 5 days prior thereto. On a motion that I will be making and ask for a second. So let me put it out there. Do I have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Deirdre Murphy. Okay, so it's now open for town board discussion. I'm gonna open the discussion by saying, this is not a law that is contemplating overriding the, tax levy limit, or the tax cap as it's mostly called, but it's reserving the right for the town of Tuxedo to do so if, after budgetary considerations, we need to. And so, this cannot be construed as the town board voting to override a tax cap. It's really holding on to the option that, pretty much every year, the town board exercises the right to do so, as the budget and, is developed.
Right.
So,
To pile onto that comment, The way that the scheduling for having to submit the budget to the various, there are rules for when the budget has to be submitted, approved, et cetera. In order to meet those dates, and in order to have the possibility of exceeding the tax cap, should it be necessary, put an asterisk there, we have to pass this before we know what the final budget is and whether we're gonna need it or not. Now, back to the asterisks. We've passed this every year since I've been on the board. We have never exceeded the tax cap. In fact, last year, we lowered the tax rate.
Right.
Now, with another asterisk that says, I ain't promising we're doing that again, but we're gonna try.
Well, you never can, we don't have the insurance rate changes yet.
Right,
There are
we don't-
many things that are out of our control, and a lot having to do with benefits and insurance policies and the like. So until we have those numbers, we couldn't really.
We can't finalize it.
Say what the budget final will be.
Exactly.
And so,
And that's why we have to pass this without knowing whether we're gonna need it or not.
that's right.
I mean, yeah, I remember us passing this every year also since I've been a board member for the last 4 years. And we've never, thank God, had to.
So, I don't have my calendar for some reason in front of me. I'd say, and I'm not sure what else we have booked at the next town board
At the
meeting.
next town boarding meeting, which is the 11th, we have,
Andrus or
Andrew
budget.
Arias.
we have Andrew Arias, we have a public hearing, we have 2 public hearings, one on, help me out, I can't remember,
Solar,
the unified solar permit,
right?
and
Volunteer fire.
on the volunteer firefighter tax
rebate. Or
talking about things that may change the bottom line of the budget. So, but also, I'm gonna say time is to a certain extent, time is of the essence. Can we hold this off until the 25th?
Yeah,
The public hearing on this,
of October?
yes, the second
Oh,
meeting in
yeah,
October
because
instead of the first.
Final budget isn't due until November,
Okay.
after,
Then,
about mid to late November.
then to avoid oversaturating the public
Yeah.
hearing market, I'd say we should put this off to the second meeting in October, which I believe is the no, it's not the 25th. 23rd. Sorry, I was counting from the 11th, but the 11th is a shifted date because of Columbus Day and
Right.
October 23rd,
7 o'clock.
7 PM. We ready to vote on that?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Then we have a resolution, agenda item number 6, to approve the town investment policy. A copy of the model investment policy from the state controller is below. I think we need to actually read the motion before we discuss it, if we're actually going to try to approve this.
I didn't take out a motion, I wasn't sure if you were adopting this tonight or
Well,
discussing.
maybe we could have a little
Make a
discussion.
discussion item.
Yeah. So a little background, this town board was interested in actively making investments and subsequently have. And Michelle, Lindsay and I actually looked at our investment policy, and it literally was, as we're proposing now, the investment policy model from the state controller's office.
Yeah, exactly. And the one that we had currently was from maybe the 90s and 1990s. And new instruments are now in the market. And so it just had to be updated.
And so as part of that process, Michelle and I volunteered to compare the existing town town policy that I believe has been in existence. I think the version we have states that it was adopted in 2011 or something, if I remember correctly. That might have been just a reiteration.
I think a reiteration
Yeah,
of the one
but
from the 90s.
The one
yeah.
that we had said 2011 on it.
Right.
And it wasn't stopping the town from making investments. I just want to make that clear. But like so many things we're trying to deal with, we're trying to update code and policies. And so you and I took it upon ourselves to do a side-by-side reading, and lo and behold, most of it really didn't change much, but as you're pointing out, there's some instruments and things have changed.
And the names of things have changed, and so.
But
The one thing that we do need to discuss is, responsibilities for various things. So that's changed a little bit.
yeah, I'm not sure that we've circulated enough to the town board members to actually take an action on this tonight.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
And I will point out that, working collaboratively, we've been investing our money in very safe securities, CDs, and have reaped substantial benefits. Most recently, in the last month, about $20,000 of increased revenue to the town, and that's been successful, and continuing that strategy, especially in the beginning of the year when the town's coffers are at their highest levels. You can see that the potential for gains to the town, obviously the markets have changed dramatically. Interest rates have gone up on CDs and very
Right.
safe investments where before they were under 1%. And now we were reaping about 5%. So big difference. And so
And the
this board
rates
took
should-
action and we've been investing. And but also we have to be mindful of the cash flow, especially towards the end of the year. So
Yeah, well, we won't roll over as much each month. We'll
Right.
reduce how much we roll over, because we're mostly in 30-day CDs, but we did do one 90-day CD, which will mature in October.
So basically, I'm just gonna make a motion to table this, but not to, so Michelle, maybe you and I could finish that process of doing
Yeah.
the side by side and offer the recommendations as to what changes might be made, but
Well, and
I recognize Jay.
yeah, what I would ask is that as you're doing that, I mean, what we have here is exactly what it says on the title. It's the model when it doesn't have any of the blanks filled in.
Right,
Right. Yeah.
correct.
Of course. So when the committee comes back for us to take action, if we can have the final draft, right, with the blanks filled in, and if there are changes of who's doing what or whatever it is, recommendations for who should be doing what, so
Right.
that we can
Yeah, this is good.
do that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we need to make a motion to table that, or
Well, we don't
just
have a-
discussion.
It was just
We just,
it was a discussion.
We just did that. Okay, so moving forward in the agenda. And thank you, Marissa, for putting all that together for us.
Yes, thank you.
I seem to think we're on page 16 of other business.
that's where I am.
I have on the other business, a one-day pickleball tournament, approved extra hours for Kathleen. I think, Maria, you wanted to?
Yes,
just
so
update us as to
Kathleen
what this
has,
is?
she is planning a beginner pickleball clinic at Teachy Field on October 14th, 9:30 to 11:30. And it'll be, they have an instructor, and that'll cost $150. And we need to get a little bit of equipment, and that'll cost $200. And there'll be a fee for this clinic, it's $25, and we are limiting the people to 15.
15 or 1.5?
1.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we just wanted to ask you if this is, you know, it'll just mean that, you know, Kathleen is back now to working 17 and a half hours. So it's really, she's barely able to do everything that she has to do with the 17 and a half hours. So when she does extra events, then it would be good if we can allow her to have extra hours to get this done. She is also, we're so excited because she's in conversations with the high school in terms of basketball. The basketball coach of the Tuxedo Union Free School District wants the kids to have practice. There's not much going on in the fall, so she's trying to work with him to see if we can schedule some sort of tournament, like not tournament, it's called
3-on-3.
3-on-3, I can't think of the word right now, but anyway, so she's talking to Matt Takeuchi, to, you know, get something going, and so we're trying to, little by little, increase our recreation activities in
Right.
town and give people an opportunity to.
So I just did a little quick math. 15 people at $25 is $375.
Right,
So
$375.
that would cover the fee for the instructor. And I wasn't sure when you said about the equipment.
I think it
that
just
was-
needs, we need, like, just in case people, I guess, don't have rackets or balls or whatever it is
Right.
that they need.
That's understandable. I have no
So-
further questions.
I mean, basically, we're approving this at a cost of the town of whatever, 3 or 4 hours of
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 Kathleen,
time.
Kathleen's time,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
right. But,
you
you know,
guys
we
don't know what she
wanted,
gets
we
paid.
wanted
It's
to,
not a
we want
significant
there to
amount.
be a
I'm
process.
really not worried about it.
Right, no, but we want there to be a process that when these things happen, they don't just like willy-nilly happen. They happen, she lets us know, she lets the board know, and then, you know, we discuss it and, you know,
We, absolutely.
is, you know, approved and, you know, we all know what's going on, so.
Well, I'm hoping that I'm free on October 14th.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to know if it was 1-5.
And I'll look forward to learning more about the actual registration so I can get my name on the list.
How do you register?
Before she went ahead and did the registration, she wanted to ask us for permission, so what I will do is, it'll be on the website, how to register, I'm not really sure.
To be determined.
To be determined, yes.
So first, you just wanted to know if we supported this.
Right, exactly.
I'm
And then we
pretty
do
sure
have
we're
a
gonna say
person
yes.
and we do have a place, but we just wanted to make sure that it was board approved.
I'm not sure we necessarily have to vote on, but.
That's how we approve things.
Okay, well then
Otherwise, it's just chat.
So I'll make a motion to approve, extra hours for Kathleen. I think you're asking for 3. I think we should do it up to 5, just to make sure she has enough time.
Yeah,
I'll make
set
a
up
motion
and-
to approve an additional 5 hours for Kathleen, in your schedule, Maria. And the additional costs for the equipment, which is probably already in the budget anyway. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Hi.
Thank you, Maria.
Oh, before I go on, 2 things. The high school, the Tuxedo Union Free School District is having a carnival on September 29th. And it's sponsored by the TPO, and they really, really want the town to go. So please come. It's from 3 to 6.
What's the day on that? I'm sorry.
It's of September 29th. It's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
This coming Friday, yeah.
Friday.
This coming Friday. So
At what time?
it's from 3 to 6.
I'm
And
sorry,
they
what's-
actually told me, the president of the TPO called me personally and asked me to invite you all.
Is this open to the public?
It's
or-
open to the public,
Okay.
yes.
So anyone within our voices can go, is that what you're saying?
But I think
Yeah.
the request, when they say they wanted the town there,
The town,
meant us.
yeah, they wanted us to be there, yeah, because they, wanted
Do we have a
us-
booth? Is that, we did the last time.
I don't think we have a booth, but it
Could be
could be
different.
that we
I'm
do.
pretty sure there's no. because-
Okay.
I don't think it's that, it's a
Because
carnival.
we're just hearing
Oh,
about it.
okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought-
a
yeah,
carnival.
okay.
It's not,
It's not what it was
what
in
it
the
was
fall.
before. This
Yeah.
is just a carnival. It's
Okay.
totally like a fundraiser for the TPO and just to get out and have
Okay.
fun in the fall.
Okay.
So I think you just gave a council person's update. Beth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was what we were doing. That is my update for today.
ATM,
Oh, yeah.
something like that?
This discussion item about an ATM being considered for a train station.
Yes. So, as everybody knows, the Chase Bank isn't here anymore. And they were the only ATM in town. That's not entirely correct. There's at least one ATM at the Chinese restaurant. There may be others, but they were the only 24/7 access ATM in town. And I have heard.
And I'm not sure those other commercial ATMs actually accept deposits and stuff. I'm not really sure about that.
They don't.
They're just cash
They're
dispensers.
cash dispensers. They are cash machines. They're not full-blown
Not really
ATMs.
ATMs, yeah.
And neither will this be.
Oh, okay.
So, to have a full-blown ATM like that is essentially a bank branch, and that isn't the project that we're launching into. We can try for that in future. But, because I got tired of people complaining that we didn't have an ATM, we've done some research with, Carrie helped, and I did some research, and we have gotten in contact with a company that is All County Vending. I may have butchered their name, but it'll be on the proposal when the time comes. Who, amongst other things, has ATMs in the town halls of various municipalities around here. A number of them have them in their courtroom. They also provide vending services for a lot of people, including, if you buy snack food, we'll call it snack food, at Tuxedo Union Free School District, you're using one of their machines. So we have looked at the possibility of putting an ATM at the train station on the track side so that it doesn't mess with the view of the train station. It will.
Outside or inside?
Outside,
Okay.
so that it will be 24/7 and we don't have issues with it being locked up.
Yeah,
So that you can
okay.
peer through the glass of the waiting room and wish you could get money. It will be a cash machine. It will not be a full service, make deposits. It is at no cost to the town. In fact, there's a nominal take on the transaction fee that the town will get, which will cover things like the electricity. So what I wanted was a feeling of the board if this was something that people wanted to pursue, so I can get a proposal so that we can get under contract to do this.
So
Well, certain, go ahead, no, you go.
I just have one question about security.
Yes. Security for,
I don't know, I guess,
it's in a well-lit public area. The machine itself, if you're worried about the machine gets bolted down to the ground. The only physical impact on the building will be several, anchors into the concrete pavement.
Into the concrete pavement, okay.
Which, should the machine
Not
ever
into
go
the
away, not into
building.
the building, it's
Yeah.
in, it will be under the roof. It's still a cash machine in, it's a well-lit public area, that's as good as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Are there any other commercial entities in Tuxedo that might be interested in hosting this, other than the town?
I don't know. I didn't ask because,
Like,
Who were you thinking?
yeah, that usually is, usually it's like at the Chinese restaurant, there's a machine for the convenience of the patrons, but it's only available during business hours.
In Southfields, there's one at the Valero as well. That's
Inside.
inside, yeah.
My guess is there might wind up being one at the new gas station when that gets finished.
oh, right.
But again, those are not the same thing.
I'd certainly be interested in seeing a contract and a proposal from this company.
Oh, absolutely.
it's not unheard of that people pull up with a powerful pickup truck and throw a chain around these things and pull them out of the ground. That's not unheard of, for sure.
That is not unheard of. It's also, I mean, yes, that is, but this is a, we are basically leasing them this 4 square feet of
Right.
space and providing electricity.
Right, if
In
they're
return, they pay-
responsible
They're
for-
responsible they are responsible for maintaining the machine, they're responsible for filling it with money.
And if
all
there's
of the
any
above.
damage from a crime, I would imagine, but that's why we have attorneys to review these proposals.
Exactly.
Also, it's near the police, the village police, although obviously they're village police, but they can see if there's an incident.
If there's an
happening.
incident, I'm sure if somebody showed up with a pickup truck and started yanking the machine out, they'd be
It's
coming
be
down
able to
across the
probably
street.
They'll be
say it,
able to call.
yeah.
I mean, I'd hope that the actual site is, I think you mentioned possibly under the,
The location that seems to make the most sense is on the backside, next to the door to the waiting room. It's under a relatively large overhang, there's already a power supply there. And being on the track side, it doesn't, when people are coming by and, filming scenic downtown Tuxedo, there's not a big ATM right in the middle of everything. But I'm open to alternate suggestions.
yeah.
Well, just see the contract, make sure there's no liability if anything happens.
Well, we'll have to see, understood, I'm not asking for approval of
When
the contract here,
when I
just,
think about an ATM, if it was full transactional, that certainly has more of a draw. It's kind of like how many people are using cash now anyway, if that's the only draw, but let's see the proposal. Let's see the proposal.
okay, good, thank you.
I have my update, but I need to go to the office to go get it, so.
The kids are home with these
Why don't
things.
we do things like the minutes and stuff like that, and then we can go to the reports, if you can indulge me with that. I'll make a motion, ask for a second to accept the minutes of the regular bi-monthly town board meeting held on September 11, 2023. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Maria. Okay, any edits, additions?
No, but I have to kudos to Marissa because we had a really complex set of minutes from last time, and you did a really good job, like synthesizing all the information and getting all the public comments, so thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Second, thank you for mentioning that, Maria.
I was like, oh my goodness.
So to the question of any edits or additions?
No, edit.
All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye, and for thanking Marissa?
Aye.
God bless you. Okay, the town board is in receipt of Carrie's vouchers totaling $5,000 or greater out of the typical offenders. I'll make a motion, ask for a second, that the following vouchers having been audited by the town board are hereby approved for payment. Claims number 201-292-2132 through 201-292-2213. I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Brett, public comments. Jerry, did you want to make public comments? Can I just run and get my report? But I am listening, Jerry. Please go ahead.
I've been in contact with Deborah Villanueva in the building department.
Uh-huh.
They don't have anything on microfiche for my property, or our property, at 7 Southside Place.
Apparently you don't exist.
Huh?
Apparently you don't exist.
Well, the house exists, but, oh, we don't have to pay taxes?
Yeah, you do.
Good.
Sorry, you always gotta pay taxes. Okay, yeah, so, I'm sorry, it's been long, I apologize.
I talked to them and they're wondering see if I can get a as-built letter to put in my file. And they're thinking, until something happens, I can't. So with the attorney here,
But you didn't make any changes, right? You didn't make any.
it was built in June of '55. So it's before zoning.
It's,
There's probably some fire insurance records, some Sanborn maps.
well, I mean,
But you didn't make any changes, right?
so
Didn't do any
there is
addition.
the one thing we have in the building department is the one addition that we know of. I'm not gonna give you an answer tonight. I'm sure there's something that we can do. I don't know what that is, but I will work on it with Deborah and with Amy and maybe Kelly, and we'll see if we can
And
come up
there's
with this.
certainly also a chain of title. There are deeds going back to whenever it was built, I imagine.
Yeah, but this is coming out of the as-built permits issue. And so I think what Jerry is trying to do, sorry, Mr. Matola is trying to do is get certification of the existence of all the stuff prior to the permitted addition, so that when it comes time to sell it, he doesn't suddenly get a whole mess.
And to put in town records.
Yeah, so let's,
Certificate of occupancy of what exists.
I don't think you'll ever get a certificate of occupancy since it predates, we'll talk about it, but there's something else you get, a letter of conformance or something that's got a different name. I'll look at.
Does that fulfill like a title search?
Yeah. Let me look into it further.
Because there'll be a lot of houses that will need that,
Yep.
especially on my street. And the second question is the train station done?
I haven't done a final walkthrough, so no. But, wait, there's more. My supervisor's update.
Okay.
Let's see if anybody wants to.
In virtual world, any public comments? That's you at home? Okay, I'm gonna move to department updates. And we have one very important
Just-
department update to come.
Just me. Good evening, everyone. The Board of Elections has posted dates, times, and locations for early voting, which begins Saturday. Microphone doesn't work. Sorry, let me start over. My microphone was not working. The Board of Elections has posted dates, times, and locations for early voting, which begins on Saturday, October 28th. The closest locations to us are Monroe Town Hall and Warwick Senior Center. Announcement that the next town board meeting is pushed to Wednesday, October 11th, since Town Hall will be closed on Monday, October 9th, in observance of Columbus Day.
Indigenous Peoples' Day?
No,
Yeah.
it's still called Columbus Day.
It is? I thought it was
We-
also indigenous.
We have decided that we're calling it both.
Okay.
Okay,
we
so
have not gotten rid of
Columbus
Columbus Day.
/ Indigenous Peoples'
That is a
Day.
three-beer conversation we'll be happy to have with anybody some other time.
And just to let town residents know that interstate waste pickup for that week will not be affected. So we'll have regular pickup for garbage on Monday and garbage and recycling on that Thursday. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Supervisor's update, for those of you listening. Monday, September 25th, that would be today. The Tuxedo Train Station renovation. The project is moving along according to schedule. The repairs to the exterior woodwork have been completed, but still need to be verified and inspected. The prep and painting is almost complete. Bathroom fixtures are being installed and the new copper downspouts and gutters have been installed. I look forward to scheduling a ribbon cutting in October. Follow up, the Tuxedo LDC approved the town's grant application for this work that provides, get this, $140,000 for this work, relieving taxpayers of this burden. $140,000 from the Tuxedo LDC towards this work. And I'd like to thank Deputy Supervisor Jay Reichgott for working on the grant application. Update on the Tuxedo LDC. The 3 grantee locations, Augusta Properties, which is the orange top and adjacent office, Carlin Realty, the warehouse building, and Tuxedo Historical Society, the old Chase Bank building, continue to make great progress, and they're ready for their nearing their final inspections. So until that's done, the projects are still open. And one last grant to announce, the Police Armor and Tactical Gear Grant that was provided through Orange County Legislator Barry Cheney. He came to Town Hall today to deliver a check for $3,333, the grant that we applied for. The money will be used by Chief Trezino to purchase specialized equipment needed to respond to active shooter incidents and other emergency situations. The grant we applied for was just under $5,000, but Representative Cheney advised that they had a limited amount of money and it was distributed between 5 of the municipalities under his jurisdiction. So I will pass to Deputy Supervisor Jay Reichgott. Move that way.
Thank you. I'll keep it short, just the other LDC, the Tuxedo Farms LDC, which is the sewer plant, is having its next meeting on Monday, the 2nd. Yes?
Yes.
In the morning, right?
No,
I think
we
it's 4
shifted to
p.m.
4 p.m. because you couldn't do it in the morning.
Oh.
Has that changed? Well, too late.
Too late, because we're already doing something else in the morning.
Yeah.
So, all are welcome to
I
attend.
do have it as 4.
That's all I got. No,
Thank you.
no traffic lessons.
Michelle Lindsay.
We had a meeting with our administrator for the Community Choice Aggregation Program last week. Ken joined that meeting, and we met with Josh Scher from the Village Board and Jim Hayes, who chairs the Climate Smart Task Force for the village. And we hadn't heard from them because they were waiting for the market to settle down to make it more advantageous to have a renewable energy program. But in speaking with them, we kind of came to the conclusion that the energy market isn't going to get much better in the near future, so let's just put out the RFPs and see what the prices are and decide what we want to do after the prices come back. So they're in the process of getting us involved with other municipalities and put together a big consortium to go out for bid. So that's that. And you will each get one of these yellow books that Deirdre and I worked on, and I'll let Deirdre talk about our workshop this coming Monday at 7 p.m. And I'll let Deirdre talk about that.
Oh, okay. Can you pass me a book?
Oh, sure.
Just, so this is really just a workbook. As we know, just like your house, Jerry, the town, really, we don't have any real dimensions or measurements or surveys exact of where everything is, but we do know basically, because we've gone around and measured it ourselves, on what the sidewalks are, what we can do, how it applies to New York State DOT. So what we've done is we put a book together, and it's really just a workbook. It's not cast in stone, but essentially it basically gives, and I'll just, it's here for, we're missing the tabs because that's why we were late, so. But I'll just give you an example of what it does. It'll tell you, it gives you a map for a section, and it'll show you what that section looks like. Go like this, section, what it looks like now. And then, based on DOT or other standards that we've worked on, things that we could do with it, ideas, concepts, to make it into maybe a park or a pedestrian walkway, and getting ideas from other towns. And then we have it on a sheet that gives you the ability to add your own comments. So that when you come to the meeting, you'll see the comments that we have, and then comments that you can possibly make as additions. So we've divided it into 5 sections, and basically, it's a picture book with ideas all based on specs that are currently in the town. So that's it.
Is this something that you could scan and get it on our website for the public to do? Is
I'd
that
rather,
part of it?
yes, and the issue is, it would be nice if we all worked with it and decided sort of like what we wanted to do. And then we hone it down, and then we can write a brief based on everybody's input, including public input, of what they would like to see or not.
Right.
You know, it's one thing to say, we need lights, but there are places where lights can go and places where lights cannot go. So this will help determine that,
And just repeat when the workshop is again?
next Monday. That's,
For the LGC meeting. You'll have time to
Yeah,
post that.
7 PM, yep.
Yeah.
7 p.m.
Are we taking public comment at Monday's meeting?
I would
Yeah,
think
I
so.
would hope
I think that we've learned that getting public opinion is very important in the process.
So then, in light also of what we heard at today's public meeting from Christie and other folks, even, it might be good to put it even in its sort of unfinished state on the website.
Well,
So
we
that-
could do that.
So that, people following at home can have the same pages to look at and can have.
Well, I was
informed
gonna do
comments.
slides, so everybody can follow with slides.
So it's gonna
yeah,
be on Zoom?
Yeah,
Oh, so people will see.
people can see it,
Perfect.
and they can work with it, and I've also sent notifications to all the different, publications outlining what we're gonna talk about. So this is just the east side. So this goes from the East Village Road to the Orange Top on that side. And so the next workshop, which is really the more difficult part of the town to spec out, is the west side. And then we can also address road diet, basic information that we found.
Right.
So,
It also has notes that we had vetted by the Department of Transportation when Rob Dolbaum, Deirdre and I went up there. And really had a chance to send them back the notes and make sure we understood what they were saying. And they came back to us and said, what we really meant was this, and that's where, places where we could find information. And then we did the same with the meeting we had with the MTA about their plan for the entrance to East Village Road from Route 17. They're considering a plan to put in a traffic light there and crosswalks.
which is included in this workbook.
Great, thank you, look forward to it. Are you done after your?
I am
okay.
done.
Very good, all right, so we could cross off town board updates, supervisors update, department updates. Anything else?
We have public comments and other business.
We did,
Yeah.
we did that first.
Yep.
All right, the ever popular round. Well, I was gonna be shocked, I'm actually home at 4:25. Make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:04 PM. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right.
We all second?
It could be unanimous. All in favor? Aye, thank you very much. Thank you, Jerry and Dale, for coming out
Thank
sincerely.
you.
You're the only two.